The future really is no fun. Certainly far from being perfect. Hey guys, MasakoX here. It's been indeed a little while since we last touched base with one of our original good boys, but I think it's now the right time for us to reach back into his world and see what's going on. For what we gathered last time, it wasn't as rosy, or rosé, as we had wanted to see, but still nevertheless quite intense. If you're not sure who we're referring to exactly and you didn't see the title, we are going back to one of our staple good boy stories concerning one of the more prominent villains of Z, or at least a template of them. No, it's not Frieza, he's got his own story now, but probably one of my favourite baddies from Dragon Ball Z, and something which took us all by surprise and really showed that through the right upbringing and all that kind of stuff, any kind of creature could become some nice, caring being, as well as being fantastic when it comes to giving hugs to people. Today, we ask you once again, what if Cell turned good and became a fully fledged member of the Dragon Team? If you're new to this series, then we must point out that the Cell that we are talking about here isn't the exact same perfect Cell that we see in the original story. That tale had been told, and he was beyond the redemption phase at that point, since he had a lot of Frieza to tone down, so yeah, that one's a lost cause. This Cell we are alluding to is the one that was given the chance to grow from the state that it was in the sublab of Dr. Gero, the one from the present time. From there, Bulma took it in, gave it the chance to gestate on its own terms, and it became its own unique bug man, who loved hugs, and became a firm friend of Trunks and Goten, and then later on the majority of the Dragon Team. It took a while, but he did it. We've seen him grow into a very impressive member of said team, with its own set of powers and overall positive persona. That being said, if you hark back to the early days of this story, our boy got its own fair share of unorthodox powers and incidences involving a certain Deborah. Go back and check out those parts specifically if you're a little confused. In this timeline, Cell isn't referred to as Cell, since this version isn't the one that we're accustomed to. Here, we have called him Android 21, since he is technically the 21st android from Gero's staples, and the last. And the Android 21 that you're probably more familiar with is not in the story yet, and Bulma wasn't aware of what could have come from all of this. In any case, R21 is now friends with the people whom he was tasked to absorb in the original, and even has his own family of not Cell Juniors. In the last part, we went over the task for future Trunks to get over the initial suspicion of Perfect Cell when it comes to the likes of 21, because they look sort of identical except for the eyes. The two of them were not the same person, and it was a very difficult hurdle for our future boy to try and comprehend. But he did so in the end, and the children of 21 now consider Trunks to be a pretty good friend, with Condra wanting to be exactly like him. He thinks Trunks is cool! Despite all this charm though, Goku Black was still a thing, and 21 did his very best to try and fend him off, and actually did surprisingly well. Goku Black's body could recognize the fighting style from before, somehow, but otherwise 21 was just a thorn in Black's backside, and that continues when we head back to the future as the heroes are now here to try and figure out what to do in the future times. By the way, before we start, do check out the merch store if you haven't already, because it really does help the channel out, and the designs there are really awesome. masako.cc/store. Cheers! With 21 now there on the request of Vegeta to provide some useful intel on Black's style of combat, our gang are now in the future. But I'm afraid to say, said journey, this first one to the future, has not really gone well. Not at all. It wasn't going to be a simple case of just going there, having a little bit of an argy-bargy with Black, fixing something, and then just being home in time for tea within minutes. No. In the time between their last tussle and now, the guy has gotten some insane gains to best Goku, Vegeta and Trunks. Indeed, he had, almost faster than blinking. Our heroes are sent quickly packing with their tails between their legs. Even with the extra help of 21, it's not enough. And because 21 was there, I think Black actually allows them to go back this time. There you go, you freak of nature. Run along home with the tail between your legs. Oh, Black's loving all this catharsis. Together with Bulma and Gohan at Capsule Corp, they begin to treat the wounded party now that they've returned, and they try to now hatch some kind of plan. A plan which will actually work this time. Clearly just going into a tussle head-on was not enough. Upon seeing their injured father, Mita and Condra have now witnessed their parent being damaged for the first time, and they did not like what they saw. It was a very harrowing experience for the pair of them, as it truly shows that their daddy wasn't as invincible as they'd expected him to be. They're also worryingly tending to their new friend, future Trunks, but with a well-timed crop of senzu beans being available at the ready, they managed to help him back onto his feet in a relatively quick time. Man, I miss those. That being said though, the young man feels very awful with what's going on. They failed. Again. He failed. The feeling weighs heavily on his shoulders. Present Trunks is also pretty shocked, but Goten as well as 21's kids are trying to cheer them all up by saying they were able to get back safely and are now healed up. They're okay again. The gesture is appreciated, sure, but nevertheless, it brings back memories of the struggle against Majin Buu, when a lot of lives were in peril then also. 21 watches his children doing their best to provide some kind of assurance, and he smiles. Despite not knowing a thing about raising offspring, it seems like he's actually got a couple of good eggs at hand. He's very thankful for the life that he's got, and he hopes that he'll still be around to see them grow up into their true adult forms. Once the gang have been able to calm down after the day's events, Shin decides to jump in and provide some news about the investigations. He gives everyone the heads up that Zamasu has actively confronted him about the Super Dragon Balls as well as Goku, trying to find some kind of intel from a Supreme Kai who had direct knowledge about said orbs and both subjects before then heading towards Zuno, as we know from the original. The Kai who is visibly shaken is very resolute in what needs to happen next. Some kind of action needs to be taken here. It was beyond doubt in Shin's eyes. He's acting very, very firmly here. It's very unusual. Gohan and Vegeta deduce that he must have used the Super Dragon Balls in that time to gain immortality. In this world, the team are more conducive in solving the problem together, trying to figure out the mystery without the need for Whis and Beerus to do it all on their own. The group, a much bigger one this time, then go to confront Zamasu and Goasu, and just like in the original, they do it. Sure enough, they had just about witnessed the act of Zamasu, which sealed everything. Beerus and Whis then do what they do in the original and stop the assassination attempt. Then, the most cathartic moment in Super occurs, and Beerus mutters the words, Hakai, which then tears the young Kai apart. Zamasu, here at least, was no more, and 21 is absolutely shocked at this. This had been the first time that he'd seen the Hakai technique in action. He is very glad that he will never be on the receiving end of that. This power is terrifying, but was it possible for this technique to be learned? If someone were able to use it, per se, other than Beerus, could it destroy an immortal creature like future Zamasu? Questions for later though. Meanwhile, when everyone has returned to Capsule Corp to move on to the next phase of the plan, present Trunks confronts his future self about what had happened in the future, and together with Mita and Condra, do their utmost to try and motivate the future hero once more into going back and saving his timeline, to get him out of this very enduring funk. He is visibly impressed how strong and resilient these kids are, which inspires him greatly. He hadn't really seen people this age before being all confident and stuff. The only person he had seen in this timeline act like this before, sort of, was Gohan during the Cell Games. That youthful spark is just what he needs, and he promises the group that he will not let Black get him down anymore. When Goku and Beerus get back, future Trunks, although he is very much better feeling in regards to the overall outlook, still remains a little bit skeptical about the safety of the future whilst they are in the present. 21 nods in agreement as he recalls from earlier conversations with Trunks that he had to overcome another cell in his timeline. It might have not been that much of a bother when you compare it to what they're dealing with here for the young guy, but it was still a challenge that he had to deal with, which tried to get in the way of peace there in the future. Even though 21 didn't fare too well last time in the future, he still wants to be included in the second expedition and help out as much as he can, despite feeling that he had the least ability to contribute there since Black knew his fighting style the most. He leaves his children under the care of Piccolo as well as Gohan's watchful eyes. He can easily trust this pair to take care of Mita and Condra. Together with Goku, Vegeta and Trunks, they return to the future for a second try at stopping Goku Black, before a potential future Zamasu could then get stuck in getting in the way and making things even harder. Future Mai wants to go with them as well to regroup with her teammates, but Bulma insists that she stay in the present, and when she is met with heavy resistance from Mai, she then loudly orders Mai to stay and rest. The future Mai complies, being reminded of future Bulma's authoritative tone. It was sort of comforting in a way. I think that's what she needed, some familiarity. When they successfully traverse the time vortex, they discover that things had just gotten worse. The resistance base had been basically obliterated. There was not a trace of anybody left, or anything within the vicinity of the complex. And the last connection that Trunks had to this future was lying before him, strewn across acres of scorched land. They then confront Zamasu and Black, who are reveling in the absolute cakewalk of this conquest. How foolish was it of Trunks to leave these humans unguarded and ripe for destruction? Some kind of guardian he was. This is also where Black reveals his true identity to the group, even though the gang already were able to guess, and he then spills the beans about everything that he did to Goku's family here, which causes Goku to snap against him like he did before. The initial attack wave is pretty decent this time though, much better than last time certainly, but it's still not enough to bring the evildoer down. The two also mercilessly taunt future Trunks, with 21 and Vegeta trying to comfort him as best as they can, telling the hero that these were just words and that there was nothing he could do. It's for the greater good. This, however, is just not enough to quell the impending bout of fury bubbling up, and future Trunks subsequently transforms into his Super Saiyan rage power. Consumed by the anger of the Fallen, Trunks orders Vegeta, Goku, and 21 to return to the present without him. However, the bio-android refuses to let this happen. He has seen enough of this sadness to last a lifetime, and tells Vegeta that he will stay and help Trunks hold the line, or whatever's left of it. He takes the sensu beans whilst the two Saiyans retreat, Vegeta being utterly floored by this display of bravery and honor. Is this the Saiyan pride of battle showing? Back in said present, they decide to ask Goku to practice the Alphabet as a last resort, whereas Mita and Condra are absolutely shocked to hear that their dad has remained in the future, as well as him being in danger. They are super worried about him. In the meantime, Trunks and 21 are fighting Zamasu and Black back in the future, and 21 is only still around in this battle due to his durability as well as regenerative powers. Zamasu despises 21 for being not only immortal, but also an artificial one, and the fact that the limbs that he removes with his keyblades keep regrowing. It's probably for the best that they don't know that Cell could basically live forever. Meanwhile, Goku has managed to learn the evil containment wave, and is ready to return with Vegeta to support his friends, but, you guessed it, he forgets to bring the talisman with him. Yeah, that's still a thing. Having noticed Goku's forgetfulness and managed to hide it in the time capsule, as well as themselves sneaking into the crawl space of said machine, with Goku and Vegeta being completely unaware of them being there. But once they arrive in the future though, they are noticed by 21, as well as Zamasu, guessing that these two must be related to this freak of nature over here. What is that? You made some offspring? Disgusting. I must remove any trace of your existence for the sake of the universe! Mita and Condra are watching down the barrel of a ki blast, absolutely transfixed with fear. 21 has no choice but to leap in front of them and takes a lot of the blast for his children, with Goku and Vegeta rushing in to help. Trunks is pretty tired after all of his defending, but Vegeta takes up the mantle and decides to fight against Black himself. Meanwhile, with Mita's help, and provided with the talisman this time, Goku manages to seal Zamasu in the urn. Huh, I could have sworn I forgot this. Where did it come from? Mita and Condra giggle to each other. Silly Goku. Now down a fusing partner, Goku Black is starting to get pretty desperate, as he wants to free his partner in crime from the urn. That is his goal now, and he will do anything to shatter this prison. 21 is beaten up pretty badly though, even with his regeneration present. It can barely keep up with the drain of his energy, considerably harming him. So, in a last-ditch effort, he offers some of his power to future Trunks. With that boost, the young man uses his Sword of Light and destroys the evildoer. This is the end of Black, and Zamasu is sealed. The gang then return to the past with the urn. There is no way that this future will ever be put at risk with Zamasu somewhere, anywhere. He cannot be here. Back in the present, he is given to Goasu for safekeeping. A sort of token of appreciation, a penance, sort of, as well as a reminder to not be so trusting with any potential future recruits. Future Trunks and Mai then decide to look for their version of New Namek to try and restore their Earth. They are very grateful to everyone for their help, and 21 tells his children to promise to him that they will never try and pull any stunts like that ever again. He was worried sick. The kids do, but with their fingers crossed behind their backs though. In the end, Trunks thanks his father and 21 for being there for him, and that if they ever need him again, time and space are but a short trip away. Something that causes Beerus to cough loudly, and Future Trunks looks pretty nervous at this. Trunks and Mai return to their timeline in hopes of rebuilding it. Everything is calm. That is until Zeno and the Grand Priest decide that a tournament would be a pretty neat idea round about now. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? Do you think 21 was used well in this arc? Are you starting to get a good understanding of what his children are capable of? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!